What's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith at GSD Studios, and welcome to another Jim and Jay show. So who the hell are Jim and Jay? Jim and Jay are my personal health, fitness, nutrition, biohacking, overall life optimization mentors. These are by far the two biggest badasses that I've ever met in this space. I don't know anybody when it comes to these topics, you guys, that's more knowledgeable. So we created this show for our GSD mode listeners to have an opportunity to go out there and submit your questions here to the show. If you have any questions you want answered on the show, shoot us an email at jimandjay@gsdmode.com, and we will do our best to answer all your questions here live on the show. Also, real quick, want to plug our sponsor that makes this show possible is www.checkd.com/TRT Revolution. So on the show, Jim, Jay, and I talk a lot about getting your blood work done, checking all your different levels, your hormone levels, making sure that your body is operating at its most optimal self, right? So that is the company that Jim, Jay, and myself all use. So again, www.checkd.com/TRT Revolution. So let's jump on into the show. What is up, our peeps? Joshua Smith here at GSD Studios with another episode, weekly episode of the Ask Jim, Jay, and Dr. Aaron Grossman show. Where every single week, you guys, we come at you live, we answer your live questions, and we hit on topics to help you go out there and expand your knowledge base on important topics that will help you then go out there and improve your health, fitness, and really just overall quality of life, right? So anyway, we've got another great show planned for today. We've got some questions that we're going to start off with. We got emailed a couple questions that I know we want to hit on that we're going to lead in with. So with that being said, man, I say we just dive on in.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, so question number one, and this is from a good buddy of mine. So first off, he leads off. So he asked a question that I followed up because I knew that you guys would want to know what his current diet was, what his supplement plan was. So I'll kind of go into all of it here. So I don't know his exact age. I'm guessing, from again, where I know the guy pretty well. I'm gonna guess mid-50s, let's say, right? So his comment is loving the shows. What's a diet I can do for life to stay lean? Then from there he says I can't seem to stick with counting calories, meat and veggies. Skinless chicken now turns my stomach. I get hungry and crave carbs. My weekend cheat meal turns into a binge weekend half the time. Tips for sticking with a great eating plan. So then again, I followed up with, okay, well, what are you currently doing for diet and what are your current supplements? So current supplements that he's taking, he's on TRT, tesipinate, HCG, and I'll probably mispronounce this, but pregabalin, DHEA, he's on an AI, anastrozole, or however you pronounce that, multivitamin, CoQ10, omega-3, vitamin D3, glucosamine, ashwagandha, turmeric. His typical diet, he says when he's behaving, protein powder or eggs with an ounce of cheese. Before gym, so he works out early in the morning. Oats in a pre-workout. I don't know if the pre-workout has protein or not in it. After gym, protein powder or eggs with an ounce of cheese. Lunch, chicken, broccoli, steamed veggies. Snack, mid-afternoon snack, apple and banana with peanut butter and almond butter. Dinner, chicken, beef and veggies. He says then, last comment here, and I just wanted to give you guys a full scope so we can really go deeper on this. I was taking NP thyroid, metformin, and modafinil, but my creatine levels were high, and my new doctor was worried about my kidneys. He wanted me to be on less stuff, meds, and less protein. No pre-workout with creatine. So I went all this for 3 months. Just had a blood test, waiting to see what if my creatine's lower. New doc doesn't all agree with what his previous physician had him on. He's way in the dark ages. So I explained all the stuff, that I'm learning from you guys. And anyway, that's kind of where it ends. So I don't really know where to start there. But it looks like he's just kind of struggling to keep it all together and be disciplined, get the results that he wants.
Well, I don't want to admit this, but I am a human being, and I also have those same cravings and problems sticking to the diet. Especially when you're not training for something like, we were all dieting a little while ago, and I had a specific date in mind. And as that gets closer and closer, you get more and more serious, and your conviction becomes more and more resolve, and you start seeing more and more results, and it's great. But after that, when you try to stay on the maintenance, it's a little bit more difficult, man. I totally understand that. The key for me is finding a variety of stuff to eat. Like I'll give you an example. I just found there's these like tortillas. You guys usually in the store you go and find these flour tortillas and they're fried, right? You go and buy them. I found one that an alternative that was baked, and they're like 6 carbs each. And so, I've been incorporating those into a few meals, and it kind of feels like it gives me a break from that just plain meat and vegetables. There's a lot of little tricks like that I do. I eat a lot of oatmeal that way, and use that. My favorite meal in the world is oatmeal with protein powder in it and some peanut butter. And, I find myself using that as kind of a reward, and or if I'm craving stuff like a sandwich or just something normal kind of to eat, I'll hit that, and it really shuts me down. But the answer is you just got to find a kind of a way to live that's conducive to your lifestyle, and is going to keep you looking and feeling and in a health range that you're comfortable with. And it takes some work, but for me personally, the longer that I'm away from junky foods and I'm staying to my normal diet, the easier it becomes. I do have cravings, but like I said, you kind of got to get funky. We make we make the noodles out of like zucchini. There's that thing that makes I forgot what it's called, but it's like the spiralizer or something. So we just had that the other night, and it's a complete break from just regular steak and veggies or whatever we have for dinner. It almost feels like you're eating pasta. And that cookbook that we put together, that's going to be out in one of our products. I know, Josh, you tried a couple of those, but there's probably 30 recipes in there that show you how to put together things that are really different, like protein pancakes and these funky combinations that my wife has come up with over the years. And it makes you feel like you're really eating something that isn't just skinless chicken and vegetables. And so, and there's a lot of cookbooks out there, paleo cookbooks, zone cookbooks that are really incredibly tasty meals, with a little prep behind them, and it fits into ratios that are really conducive to you staying, in the body type that you want to have. So, I know it sucks, but that's why we talk about it being a lifestyle change, and it's not a diet, and that's really the way you have to look at it. You can give yourself a night out to eat or something like that, but the longer you can stay to it and find creative ways to kind of help your cravings, I think it's a life. It's got to be something that you just kind of get used to eating that way. I know that doesn't answer your question too well, but that's how I deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me, I mean, it's easier for me because I'm kind of the opposite of most. I hate food. Right? Like, I mean, I really don't enjoy, like, I'm never one that enjoys going out to dinner. I mean, to me, it's a waste of time, right? So, I mean, I just take protein shakes all day long if Jim didn't yell at me for not eating food. But, some things like when I'm looking at his diet here, like, okay, after the gym, and again, I know this guy, and I know he trains. Like, I mean, in my opinion, he probably overtrains, from what he shared with me. And then after workout, he's like a protein powder, eggs with an ounce of cheese. So,
Yeah,
do you think that those later in the day cravings could come from not getting because also before workout, it was just oats and a pre-workout. And I don't know any pre-workouts that have a good protein source. So, do you think it could be a lack of enough protein before and enough carbohydrates and protein pre and post that then create those cravings?
I do know that's a good point, man, and I didn't catch that. But yeah, if I go into a workout with my nutrition on point, and lately it's been, I wake up really early, I drink some coffee, and usually my first meal is probably, probably around 8 or 9, something like that. And like today, it was 6 hard-boiled eggs. And then probably about 12 o'clock, I have, chicken and vegetables that I take, or some kind of meat and vegetables that I brought with me. And 2 hours or about an hour and a half or so after that, I train. But when I'm training, I have carbohydrates and protein. And then immediately afterwards, I'm hitting another large dose, like 70 grams of protein and 40, 50 grams of carbohydrates. And if I don't have that post-workout meal or that post-workout nutrition very close to that window, then my hunger goes out of control. And that might be part of it. He could certainly try that up in his game as far as pre-nutrition and immediate post-nutrition with more carbohydrates specifically, and see if that helps satiate him a little bit. Because if you work out like an animal and train and you don't supply your body with enough food, especially afterwards, and maybe even the meal, because for me it's kind of like a 4-hour window. I have to hit it right away, and then usually within the next hour and a half or so, I have to eat again. And if I do that, then it seems a lot easier to deal with, like the 6 o'clock at night on munchy zone, that you get into at the house, or that, is typical for me. I just keep getting up and wanting to go find, me and my wife are walking around our pantry like a zombie, and like, there's nothing in here. I know, we're on a diet. There's nothing, and it does help. It does help. So that might be a strategy for him to try for sure.
Yeah, he could be getting a lot of inflammation also if he's putting himself in that state before he works out, and after he works out, he's going catabolic, or he's going to be eating himself. That's not a pleasant state to be in. So it's like not a nutrient timing issues possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me personally, since you turned me on, Jim, to the sweet potato powder, man. I mean, I have that pre and post workout, dude, and I mean, I'm like full. Like I feel great during my workout. But then after that, I take that, man. I'm good for several hours. I mean, I feel just between that, like I get my carbs out of the way. Like I don't know why, with that little tweak for me. And I've never been a big carbohydrate, consumer. But that for me, dude, just seems like it's set. Like today, I mean, outside of that, all I'll have is a little bit of steak and some broccoli, a little bit of chicken and some broccoli, and it just seems like that pre and post, man, sets me up for the rest of the day.
And it can be, is he on metformin at all?
I think he said, yeah.
No, he said that he was. He said he was taking MP-thyroid, metformin, and modafinil, but his not creatine, whatever levels were high, and his new doctor was worried about his kidney, so he took him off of those.
Pretty ignorant of his doctor to just shut him off for creatine, because that's not a good indicator whatsoever for renal issues. They didn't even look at if you're taking creatine, your creatine is going to go up, and I don't know why they would take him off that unless his kidney filtration was messed up. So that's a very common thing that doctors freak out about, and they don't understand that taking creatine will raise your creatinine levels. So
yeah, he said his doctor also put him on less protein and no pre-workout with creatine.
What the fuck is this quack?
Well, that's what he kind of followed with. He said his doctor's kind of in the dark ages, right? So first off, dude, start working with Checked. It's the only place to be.
That's some hackery, unless there's something that we don't know about that's going on in his medical history. But metformin for me really helped a lot too, because it shuts down that insulin signal. And especially initially when I first started taking it, for probably the first 6-8 months, man, it was very controlling of my hunger and shut my hunger down a lot. And that helped. That helped for me. Even now, like if I have a refeed day or something, and or I allow myself to eat, like 80, 100 grams of sugar, I get an insulin spike after that, and I'm hungry for hours, man. It takes 6-8 hours to shut it back down. And I'm not hypoglycemic. It's not that. It's that insulin makes me hungry. And if I keep it down lower with, complex carbohydrates and or metformin therapy, then it really helps my hunger overall throughout the day.
Well, just the wackiness of what the doctor's thinking. He's thinking, all right, if he has kidney damage from high creatinine levels, then he's going to get what's called microalbuminuria, where there's protein leaking out. So the concept of shutting down protein intake to prevent excess protein in the kidneys, when you need protein for healing, and if there actually is kidney damage, you want protein. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Well, Aaron, as you know, if you have high cholesterol, you're not supposed to eat cholesterol.
Yeah, we gotta get him on a statin.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. I would like to follow up with him and see if his hunger was less, or if he had less of those cravings, or more control over the weekend when he was on metformin. That would be interesting.
Well, and you never know, but the question came through, and he's been following the show for a long time. So the question came through, post new treatment. So I'm guessing it's more of a, the other thing when I look at, like, I don't know, dude, like, my wife and I just did that food intolerance test. And I've been experimenting with it. I don't know if, like, I've been reintroducing a few things after a few things off, and I mean, I feel the same whether I have them in there or not. So I don't really know with all of it. I mean, some of it, I guess, is seemed to have a slight impact. But so my wife, she had on the testing intolerance to, like, all red meats essentially. She could only have white meats, and I was trying to support her and eating the same diet, dude. I went, like, I don't know, 2 weeks without red meat, and man, I've never felt so shitty. Right? So, like, I look at his diet, and there, it's all just chicken, right? Chicken, eggs, or protein powder. I mean, is that just me, or do you think that there's something? I guess he does say he potentially will have some beef and veggies here and there, but do you think that can have to do with it? Because I just feel like if I don't have a certain portion of red meat in my diet, man, I just feel off.
I do. I feel a lot better when I eat red meat and when I eat it consistently. For example, when I was, training to be Godzilla, man, I would eat 2 pounds of red meat a day, and I did that for a long time. And I was on creatine too. It wasn't the creatine, but if I went, 4 or 5 days without red meat, I could feel it. I felt a difference. So I think there's foods that just really, act, or I don't know, somehow perform good in your body, based on your own biochemistry. But my wife will go a certain number of days or weeks without red meat. Then she'll wake up one day and it's like, look, I have to have red meat today. And she's super sensitive, and in tune with her body. And she'll eat, 3 or 4 days worth and then be good for a while. It's really amazing. But she'll literally wake up, one day and go, I have to eat red meat today. And she's, when she was training, it was more pronounced. But yeah, I think there's credence to that.
I'd be interested to see what his ferritin levels are, because I bet you there's some kind of issue with his iron stores, especially if he's not eating the red meat like that. He's probably going to have some kind of like an energy capacitance issue.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess when I am most, like, sleep deprived and my energy's the lowest is when I probably give into the cravings the most. Right? Which I guess could be some correlation there, huh?
I think when go ahead, Aaron.
No, I was going to say that's why your wife's really well in tune, because that's why women live longer than men, because their ferritin levels being regulated with their periods. They're releasing it, so she knew to, like, restore her levels probably post period or around that time, and then keep that balance going. So there is something more to that.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
I'm sorry, you're saying.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I forgot what my point was. One other interesting thing, Josh, that you brought up with the allergic protein allergies, kind of goes to what Paul had told you. I just listened to something by Dr. Eric Serrano, and he's a pretty smart guy in terms of bodybuilders and all of that. And he recommends that you switch your protein sources every 3-4 weeks. Because he suggests that you do develop these allergies, and sometimes you can tell you're having an allergic reaction to them. Sometimes the symptoms are so light that you really don't. But he's saying that you do build up a tolerance to it, or you build up some type of allergic reaction, and it does have an inflammatory effect. And so he's recommending you switch your protein sources out every month or so. And I thought that was real interesting.
That's interesting.
I'm gonna have to give that a shot.
What's this guy's name?
Eric Serrano, Dr. Eric Serrano. Yeah. Pretty smart dude. He works with a lot of bodybuilders and high-end athletes that, are pushing the limits of physiology. And he's been around for a long time in the community. And you can find a lot of YouTube videos and some talks where he does specifically talking about, having bodybuilders trying to stay healthy and alive. And he talks a lot about vascular inflammation and omega-3 balances and all that.
Yeah.
It's got some good stuff.
That's genius, because you got to figure there's no perfect amino acid profile in meat. So if you're just going to plug in, let's say, steak and whatever, branched chain amino acids are in there, you're going to get deficient at something, and then shifting up with like a fish or a chicken, that's actually pretty brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So then when I'm looking at, if we get off the food thing, I don't know if we've really answered the dudes. I don't know. I guess a lot of it is Jim always tells me. I'm always like, "What's the hack?" Dude, he's like, "Suck it up, self-discipline, bro." the only hack I've really found for those cravings. I know for me and dude, like right now, as we were kind of talking before we hit the live button. I'm in the lowest carbs since I used to compete in bodybuilding, which was decades ago and just one show. But I'm in the lowest carbs I've been since that point, and I feel absolutely amazing. Even though I'm massively sleep deprived right now because I'm in the middle of a lot of projects. But dude, between EMF and caffeine, right? That's like the only thing that I find that really cuts my cravings and really keeps me going. But then when I look at like his TRT protocol, like, I know the dude's, he's had kids, he's in his mid 50s, and when I see this, I'm like, I don't like okay, DHEA and Clomid, like I was on that before I got on TRT because they're trying to reinstill my natural levels. And again, I'm ignorant when it comes to this stuff.
Wait, he's on Clomid and on TRT at the same time?
No, he's on TRT, so testosterone cypionate, HCG, progenolone, which I don't even know what that is, DHEA, and then the AI there, yeah.
Yeah, there's some kind of balance. There's too many cooks in the kitchen hormonally for him. So he's got precursors to testosterone. So he's got pregnenolone, which turns into DHEA, and then he's got DHEA, which becomes testosterone. He's getting exogenous testosterone. He's trying to balance it with, possibly a cookie cutter dose of anastrozole. There's probably something definitely out of whack hormonally.
And you know how I feel about HCG.
Yeah. Let's not even go down that.
Let's not start that one tonight.
But wouldn't that create some of the hunger issues if his estrogen is out of whack? Wouldn't that?
Well, I feel that it creates estrogen spikes, and I think that's pretty solid theory on that. But if he's whacking it down with an AI, would that cause hunger? I think the estrogen would have to be pretty high for you to experience hunger issues in comparison to your testosterone, but I might be wrong. Aaron?
But I bet you the HCG is playing a part in this because it's very, the parameter is not very tight on it, so it can kind of cause waxing and waning, and it's a pregnant woman's urine, so who knows what that's doing to him.
Come on, it's an extract.
Well, I know, Aaron, it's kind of impossible really for you to say without analyzing blood work, but have you ever, isn't that kind of a funky stack? Like, have you ever seen like a reason to be on, because it just seems like those things kind of contradict each other.
If the thing that seems odd is exactly what you said. I don't know what the numbers are. So the good news is he has a lot of immunoregulatory compounds. The DHEA should be immunoregulatory. The pregnenolone can help. It's not as conclusive. The testosterone is. So it wouldn't shock me if the estrogen is the issue there. What was the main concern? He just is diet, or
it's hard for him to stick to that diet, and he's sick of the normal foods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Spices and dressings.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what just being creative with foods. That's the only way I've been able to get through it. So.
Yep. All right. So the next question is, and this guy's he's a fan of the show. So even though when I say that, I don't really think this guy's a hater because he's left so many positive comments. He just. I think maybe, I don't know, something that we said or something that, he interpreted kind of contradicts what his experience has been. So he's just, asking for some elaboration here. But he's like, I think most of the information that you guys put out is awesome, but I've personally been training fasted for 3 years now, and I've never had trouble gaining muscle. I don't understand why you are saying what you are saying about the subject. Your GH level is dramatically increased in a fasted state, and that is exactly the state you want to be in. I've been following a modified version of Lean Gains. My program is modified because I'm diabetic. I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding what you guys are saying. So, we always talk about intermittent fasting and why you don't want to go out there and resistance train while you're in that fasted state. And he's, again, his experience maybe has been kind of different. So,
well, I would like to know, like, what do you mean by you don't have any trouble putting on muscle? So you're putting on 7 to 10 pounds naturally a year, or has that slowed? Has it stopped? Or you don't have a problem maintaining training the way that you do? That would be my questions. But specifically to answer or to come back with my thoughts on his specific question. But as a whole, I mean, there's really big guys who train fasted too, and they feel better for it. But those guys, in my experience, are all gassed. They're all enhanced, and some of them, they're eating. I don't know if it's a long fast, like a real true intermittent fasting. That's probably more like a 4 or 5 hour fast, maybe 6 hours, and then training and feeling better and then eating afterwards. I don't know. There's just not a lot of guys who are going in after an 8 or 12 hour fast training, hard resistance training, and then gaining muscle for it. I mean, there's going to be situations where that you can set up to do that, but I'll take a natural bodybuilder, somebody who has just a normal amount of testosterone, who's been training for a while. If you're gaining 5 to maybe 6 pounds in a year, you're doing some outstanding work. And that's just hard to do training fasted, in my opinion, because if you're training intensely enough to stimulate muscle growth and really make changes in yourself, you're going to run out of glycogen, and as soon as you do, you're going to start breaking down proteins, and that little tiny spike of growth hormone that you're going to get isn't going to do shit to stop that or to help that. That's just my experience, but again, I don't know everything. I just know, my specific way to skin a cat, and that's always been going in and keeping my body from breaking down proteins during the workout. I can tell you that, before, when I was training naturally, when I was training not natural, and now when I'm on TRT levels as an old man trying to maintain my muscle, if I have a meal an hour or so before, and I do a drink or a post-workout immediately afterwards, my recovery difference between that and the same protocol with 25 grams of carbs and 25 grams of branched chain aminos during the workout, the differences in recovery is phenomenal. My recovery rate goes up, I would say, at least 20%. I'm able to actually throw in a whole nother body part and hit it your frequency times per week. So instead of hitting something once a week and barely recovering for the next week's workout, I can train twice in a week. That same volume, just from adding 25 grams of carbs and 25 grams of Pepto Pro or hydrostellic whey. And so for me, that kind of answers all those questions, but that's just my personal experience.
No, you're 100% right, man, about the GH differentiation, because you see people that go down these holes of, this particular program says based on this research, the GH levels go up, but it's not comparative to say that, it's not comparable to say that the eating a meal beforehand or having like a sweet potato powder is not going to increase your insulin levels and spike the GH even more so than in a fasted state. So, you're technically, comparatively, putting yourself at a disadvantage if you really want to go by what's happening on a hormonal and blood and GH level.
Do you think for his results, because he says in there, and again, this is just for me, not, I don't know what I don't know, right? But he talks about that he's diabetic. Does that have anything to do with why he may get different results in a fasted state working out compared to a non-diabetic?
There's a lot of factors in there. I mean, is he using exogenous insulin, or is he type 2 diabetic? I don't really know. I'd like to dive into that further. I mean, I'd like to, maybe even talk live and get all the details and try to figure it out. But yeah, if he's using exogenous insulin, then that changes a lot of things, man. That's a massive advantage for maintaining and putting on muscle. It is, especially if you know what you're doing, and it sounds like he does nutritionally. Yeah, that changes the game a little bit. But I don't know. I'd like to know more about that. Try to, get some more details and piece it together. But that's an interesting question. And two, guys, you can take one person's results, and I can get a group of 5 guys and put them together and put them on a ketogenic diet and have them gain 15 pounds of muscle in 6 months. But those would be ex-athletes, people who haven't lifted in 4 or 5 years, that are out of shape, already know how to lift, already in tune with their bodies, and on a shitty diet now. You can do anything with them and it's going to work. So it really depends on the context. I'd really like to know more about his situation and how much muscle he's put on relative to his training experience, and how long he's been training fasted.
What are you smiling about the comment there?
Yeah.
I just saw that too. So this fucking girl in the group, dude, Donna Rigsby. She goes, this 3-way convo feels very self-indulgent. It doesn't have focus and flow like your other shows. Please make this more interesting for your audience. All right, dude. So we take time out of our busy ass weeks to deliver free content. It's like, why don't you just get the fuck out of here, you leech? And just like I can't stand motherfuckers like that, dude. And again, I know I shouldn't let it get to me, but holy shit, join our free group, watch our free content, be a damn leech, and then talk shit. Like I guarantee that chick has never created one piece of content in her life.
Well, weren't we answering a reader's email?
Dude, and then she's posted on our I
Pretty self-indulgent, man.
Well, submit a question, Donna, and maybe we'll answer it.
Yeah, or just why don't you just do us all a favor and just remove your fucking self from the group? You know what I mean? It's again, I shouldn't get emotional about it, but just there's always haters, man. And I don't want to say she's necessarily a hater, and I'm sure she's trying to give constructive feedback, but it gets annoying. All right, so and the other question though from Lane Stowers, who's one of my homegirls, amazing person who's been really leveling up in her health and doing really well. She asks, what brand of sweet potato powder do you guys recommend?
There's a couple out there that aren't mixed with other things. So there's a few brands that are mixed with like oat powder and some rice powder, but the one that we use is from True Nutrition. And it's 100% sweet potato powder. You can add, some stuff into it if you want. You can add whatever flavor you want. Typically, it's about 25 grams of complex carbohydrates per scoop, and we're just adding that into, whatever whey or whatever your protein mix is. Maybe for a meal unless you can eat whole food, and definitely something post. And you can use that as a meal anytime. It's complex carbohydrates. You mix it with the protein of your choice, throw in a little bit of fat, and that's a perfect meal. And it's a literally dried, ground up sweet potato. So you're not missing out on any of the nutrition. It even has the skin in there, so you're getting the alpha lipoic acid, all the minerals, but it's a great product.
I picked it up also. It's really good. Put some cinnamon in there. It's amazing.
Well, dude, do you guys like the taste of it though, man? Because and I don't even sound like a total pussy here, but man, I'm like, I chug it. I just plug the nose and chug, but dude, it's nasty stuff, man. At least, I just get the plain. Even the smell of like my shakers, dude, like it's pretty gnarly stuff. Or is that just me being a wuss?
Jay was complaining about it and bitching about it for probably the first 6 pounds, and then then he sends me a text. I just ordered 25 pounds.
Wow.
So I don't know if he got used to it, but it's thick. It really thickens up your shake. And I always match the protein powder with the flavor of the sweet potato powder, and I usually go like, whatever it was, pumpkin pie or whatever it has to kind of play off of the natural sweet potato.
In the sweet potato.
Yeah.
See, I just do the raw whatever it comes.
Yeah, that's a little rough, man. That just ruins the taste of it absorbs whatever.
Dude, I bought
whey
6 months worth, dude. Like all in one jug. Like 6 of these jugs show up. My wife is like, dude, you better finish this. And now I'm just committed every day.
But that's where we get it. It's a great product.
They make some really cool I'm sorry, some cool protein. But that company is very impressive. Like the alfalfa, I bought the alfalfa green protein powder.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get greens and solid protein. I mean, that's.
Yeah, Dante's an incredible guy, man. He's been in the community for a long time. He's influences a lot of the stuff that I regurgitate. On that site, there's all kinds of protein powders. They even have cricket powder now.
Seriously?
If you want to, yes. Double the flavor, though. That was the recommendation. But yeah, that's where we get it. It's a great product, and it's literally, it's a compact way to take complex carbohydrates with you.
All right. So then, so Larry just asked, can you type the name of the sweet potato powder? Yeah, I'll do that, Larry. But it's from True Nutrition. I mean, they really only have one, right? It's one sweet potato powder at TrueNutrition.com. And then like Jim
said,
it's like
$17 or something for a 2 pound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very expensive.
And then okay, so then Tony says it's like sweet potatoes if you don't add enough water. Timothy says vegan. So this is a question: vegan-based protein of whey. Is there a vegan-based? I mean, whey is an animal-based, right? I don't think there is.
Yeah, technically, all whey is made from dairy byproduct.
I think it's or vegan-based protein or whey.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Or whey. Yep.
Mm-hmm. What's the question?
So I guess like, I mean, what do you is whey better than a vegan? I mean, do you have an opinion on
each protein has specific things that it kind of does. Each protein has benefits for it. Whey is good for gut health. It's good because it increases protein synthesis because you get a massive influx of amino acids. I like it because it mixes up really thin. But the truth is it doesn't matter. Find something that you like personally and then you can drink it, on a daily basis and go with that. The only thing that I really would say for if you're drinking intra workout, make it a really short chain amino acid like hydrostellate or PeptoPro or even a branch chain. But other than that, whey is probably the thinnest. And then as you go up, there's calcium caseinate, and then you get into the hemps and the cranberries and the peas, and those are much thicker. So it really depends on what kind of consistency you want. And they all have different amino acid profiles. But based on the information that we just got from Serrano and, we were theorizing building up allergies, I mean, the answer would be switch them out every 4 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, I recently started just experimenting with collagen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got that from Paul, but dude, I don't know. I guess I don't know the long-term effects of it, but I mean, it mixes good, it tastes good, and it seems to be doing good. So,
well, there was some data that suggested taking 10 grams of that a day will regrow collagen in your joints. And so I think I shared that with you, Aaron. Didn't I give you guys that study?
I'm not sure, but I'll check. That looks amazing.
Anyway, so my wife had been using it because she's allergic to everything. And to your point, Josh, yeah, I ordered a big 20-pound sack of that, and I'm putting in, I'm taking 10 grams of it a day. But she mixes it in everything. You can't tell it's in there, and it's super thin. It's not the best amino acid profile, but it is a protein. So it's a good product too, especially if you don't want to deal with consistency or taste. It's pretty much, it's real super thin, and it doesn't taste like anything.
I've been mixing it pre-workout. I've been mixing it with a little bit of oatmeal and then some unsweetened coconut milk.
Yeah,
just like 45 minutes before my workout, and then I'll throw in 30 grams of that to like 2 scoops. Maybe it's 40 grams, but
yeah, perfect.
The only thing with the whey is there's a lot of clowns out there with concentrates and stuff like that. So you got to make sure you're getting the proper like an isolate form, there tends to be more fillers with just kind of gross things added in there with a lot of the whey protein. So just got to do your homework.
Yeah, we can dive into that a little bit. There's a lot of different acceptable grades of whey concentrate. From 30% protein per volume up to 70 something, I think, off the top of my head. I'd have to look again. And most companies blend the two and give you about a 60% weight per volume. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. I wouldn't recommend a whey concentrate for anyone just because you don't know what quality you're getting unless you know how to do the math. And even if you are, and you're ordering from True Nutrition, I mean, isolate, the whey isolate, in my opinion, is the best you can get. And it's like $11 a pound, which is at least less than half of what you pay for in a store. So,
Well, because doesn't whey isolate have some regulations? Like it has to be 90% pure whey or something. I mean, isn't to classify as whey isolate? Like there isn't there certain regulations?
Correct. I think it has to be above 87. I might be wrong. It's been a while since I looked at that. It might be above 90, but the stuff from True Nutrition comes from one particular manufacturer in particular. It's super expensive and it's 97% pure per volume. So when you get a 27-gram scoop, damn near all of that is protein. And if you do the math on anything else that you go to the store and buy off the shelf, it's not even close. You're talking a 5% at least if it says whey isolate. If it has a blend on there, then you could be anywhere from 60 to 87%. And so, if you're paying 90 cents per, well, I don't know, let's just say $1 per 10 grams of protein. If you want 10 grams of protein, not 6. So it's a major difference, and that's why I support that company.
Yeah. Well, Optimized Life Nutrition will have our protein powder available soon, and you're going to get what you pay for there. So, all right. So we got a couple more questions that just came in. So, a question from John. Hey guys, can you tell me how much B12 to take with metformin? My wife's doc recommended 5,000 mcg for her. That seems high. Yeah,
that's a good start. I mean, it's all water soluble, so you're not going to overdose on it. The issue with that is make sure she's also taking folate, because metformin will decrease B12, and then people realize they have a B12 issue. And then if you're going to supplement B12, then you don't want to throw your folate out of whack. So make sure she's taking folate also, probably around 3,000 to 5,000 micrograms also.
Does that apply for both men and women?
Yeah, that's a safe standard. I'd say anywhere from, a minimum of 1,000, 2,000 micrograms of folate, or an optimized folate. And then, you can do 3,000. I mean, realistically, the RDA says that's probably like 2 weeks worth of B12, like 1,000 per week or something like that. But that's just, that's going to cover any kind of neurodegenerative issue. It's going to cover the metformin deficiency, and she'll feel better. There's no side effects. Just make sure it's methyl or hydroxycobalamin and not cyanocobalamin.
Yeah, badass. All right, so Tony asks, hey Jim, slow twitch versus fast twitch training. Everyone is supposedly more dominant with one fiber than versus others. Does it make more sense to stick with a training protocol based on what you individually are more dominant in, or would you still incorporate both?
Well, how would you test what your ratio is in a specific muscle group? That's my first question.
Well, they have testing? I mean, I thought I saw like one time like Tim Ferriss. They literally, it was inches that they were able to yank out there, and I mean it's a massive surgery, right?
Yeah, it's a massive undertaking to find out what your actual breakdown is. But that's why we train in a different variety of rep ranges. I don't think that it's difficult. I mean, you can take averages and say whatever the breakdown is. They've tested this, and you can kind of get an average to say, the medial deltoid is comprised of, on average, X amount of fast twitch, X amount of slow twitch, but you just train in a variety of rep ranges and you should cover it. I don't think there's any specific training unless you're trying to train specific for like an explosive event that you're trying to specialize in. But overall muscle growth, you just train to hit all the muscle fibers. And so we do that with, a variety of tempos and a variety of rep ranges.
So when you say variety though, is that like, okay, let's say I'm going to do, 4 exercises or 4 sets of squats. Would that be like set number 1 is like 30 and then building it down to, or is it like weeks at a time? Like 1 week you're really high reps in a higher tempo, then the next week it's, how do you get, what's the best or most effective
so the way I manage it in my training system is, depending on where you're at in the movements, you can start with a set of 20 or 30 to where you're going to failure. Your next set, you're going to fail in a completely different rep range, probably in the 12 or less rep range. And then as we move through and you get stuck on an exercise and you change it up and you start a new exercise, or you rotate around the movements that you're doing, you naturally start at a lower rep range. And so that's kind of how we deal with it, to where you're going to positive failure within like the 8 to 12 range, the 12 to 15 range, and the 15 to 20ish range. And then I throw in a day of, you go, I'm changing the name of it. It's not real PC, but you have a day where you just go in and blast yourself, with as many sets as you can do on a particular body type or a body part. And that should cover everything that you got, between rotating the rep ranges and then, the all out exhaust day that we do.
Yeah, dude. I just started, after we trained together the last time that you were in town, with I've never thought, I've always just kind of done the traditional, start with the compound movements first, and I've never pre-exhausted a muscle group before I got into that. But today, for example, man, I hit calves first, then hamstrings, so I did stiff, some calves, then stiff leg deadlifts, then leg extension, then a little bit of leg press, but ended with 10 sets of squats. Right? But just 135 pounds. I mean, that was it. I was deep as I possibly could go. But dude, I gotta say, man, I mean, it's opposite of how I've ever trained, but I've never been more sore, more pumped. I mean, it's insane, dude.
What's amazing, if you do, you warm up and you do bench or whatever, just a flat bench, and then you do some kind of fly movement, and then maybe a dips, and you're pretty strong in that, and your body gets used to it. And you go in one time and you do flies first and then bench, it's amazing how adapt your body gets to the routine that you do. And so that's another reason why we always change it up. As soon as you start to stall and don't beat your logbook, then we change up the order of exercises. And it doesn't matter if you can only do 3 exercises for a body part. You change the order up that you're doing it in. Like you just said, man, it screws your training up and your body doesn't know what to do. And so then it's forced to adapt. So.
Yeah. And I love that pre-exhaustion too, because I always find myself, if I start with the compound movements first, man, I always get hurt, right? Because ego steps in, and of course you're lifting twice the amount of weight, and it just seems for injury prevention. I mean, it just seems like it could make more sense.
Yeah, it's a great trick, man. I've been doing that forever. Because to your point, back in the day, it was because of machines. I couldn't put any more weight on the machines. And so I would start with all the isolation movements to try to get past that. And then I started to grow, at a better rate after that. And so that's kind of how I learned it. But yeah, it's injury prevention, and it really throws your body off.
Yeah, love it. So, all right. So Sam just jumped on and he asks, or maybe he's been on for a while, but first comment from Sam. So what's up, Sam? How you doing, brother? Sam's a good homie of mine. So he says, hey, killers. And the good doctor read a feed, and this is something that we've all seen out there. But read a feed regarding long-term effects on brain cognitive decline and dementia and metformin. Saw Jay chime in on it pretty hard, but seemed neutral. What are your overall thoughts?
So I think the feed that we had, they never mentioned in the study. We talked about this earlier, was the B12 aspect. So if they're taking long-term, first of all, these people already have diabetes for a long time. They probably have all kinds of other neurocognitive or neurodegenerative issues that are underlying here. So I'd like to see what the controlled variables were, but there's no mention of if they were taking B12 supplementary, and then anything below, 400, 500, 600 for B12 is going to cause neurodegeneration. It's one of the top causes for early onset dementia, Alzheimer's. People that are psychotic in mental institutions, they give them a shot of B12 and some of the symptoms just go away. So I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of that, because there are studies that show the opposite of that study also, that metformin actually does decrease cognitive decline and prevents dementia. So, a lot of these studies are very interesting to see who backs them up. Did you remember, Jim, who backed that one?
No, I didn't. We didn't dive into it that hard because I didn't do the research, like we call it the dirty research on it. I didn't do that for that particular study. I need to do it. I didn't really dive into the control group. Just like you mentioned, I don't have a real good idea what that was. But to your point, you bring up a great issue. I mean, we know metformin causes B12 deficiency in most people. I'd probably say almost everyone. And if you don't supplement that, can it lead to neurodegenerative disease or at least the progression of it? Yeah, absolutely. Also, most of the metformin data almost all of it, in fact, that I'm aware of, is based on a compromised population. And so if you're prescribed metformin by a doctor already, you're in a state of inflammation and your disease process is already advanced. We know that most of the, like Aaron just said, most of the cognitive disorders are based on some aspect of inflammation, whether that was a genesis or, it's a major contributing factor to the progression of that disease. So it's tough to say, man. That's one of the things that we need to watch. We need to peel it back a little bit more and get into the data a little bit. But most of the information that's on metformin and the studies and all these things that people quote and, hang their shingle on is on a compromised population. And so it's difficult to take that and relate it to a healthy population using metformin to cut down insulin suppression and insulin exposure over time to decrease vascular inflammation. And that's why we're taking it, and that's why we do it. So overall, less inflammation, healthier vascular system, I think less disease process, less disease risk.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I think we're seeing a corollary to that old study with testosterone where they had compromised, congestive heart failure guys and saying that it causes heart disease, or people that had more inclination to get prostate cancer. So, there's lies, damn lies, and there's statistics.
Well, and then you look at, like, when I tell people, people that aren't using metformin as a preventative measure like we are, right? When I tell people I'm on metformin, they're like, well, why would you ever be on that, right? Because it's just known as, the type 2 diabetic drug, right? So, like you guys have said, it's like, who is in that test? Like who, like you can pretty much, I hate to make assumptions here, but you can pretty much guarantee, or at least I'll make the assumption, that nobody in that research that they did in that test, that test subject that they did, was utilizing it in a preventative fashion, right? So it's the chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah. Well, I will say that we spoke about this either the last podcast or 2 podcasts ago, and the more I'm looking into it, there may be a lot of positive attributes to berberine in regards to this. So I'm going to start looking into that a little more so, but that might actually be a potential, either a supplement to it or maybe an alternative if you are, freaking out about metformin. But metformin is one of the oldest compounds as far as a actual prescription medication. I mean, it's been around for I think since the 50s or 60s, glucophage. I mean, it's got a pretty safe profile as long as your kidney function is being, it's part of the World Health Organization's 6 or 7 must-have medications. So if you're going to have a clinic in some third world country, that's one of the things that you have to have in there, like aspirin, ibuprofen, glucophage is in there, or metformin. So,
well, and berberine does a lot of the similar things that metformin do. I personally think it's on a slightly lesser scale, but it also has a lot of positive attributes that metformin does not have. I think, and correct me if you think differently on this, Aaron, but we have more information and know more what's at risk and what all the, I guess, risk factors are of metformin, because it is in fact been around for so long and it's been studied. I don't know how many thousands, tens of thousands of times,
yeah.
And it's been studied on a compromised population. We don't have that data, that same comparative data with berberine. For all we know, it might be more dangerous. It might lead to 1 or 1.5 people out of every 100,000 lactic acidosis. I don't think so, but maybe. But it's not been scrutinized by the FDA, so we don't have that data. I don't think so. I mean, I think it's a safe herb, and it does have some beneficial qualities, but it's hard to compare. In terms of safety, I think one of the safest, most studied drugs overall, and an herb that we just don't have the same comparative apples to apples data about.
Is there any reason that you would ever stack the two?
I think it happens. I mean, people can do it. It's not gonna. I don't think they interact on the same pathway, so it wouldn't really make it wouldn't shut down your kidneys or hurt anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on metformin already, your liver is definitely inhibited producing glucose. And I mean, that's as we saw with my last blood test. I mean, that's the main benefit, And I don't know if you need to increase that with something else with another compound.
Well, just last, I can put on the little like clinic, academic medical hat, which the one good thing that they do is, and I do prefer to have an integrative functional approach because it's real and it works. And I think medicine has gotten way too far down a side path of pumping people full of medication. But you do have, like Jim was saying, the standardization process and the regulatory aspect of these. And there's a specific chemical structure that makes this metformin. And that specific chemical structure has been studied ad nauseum to the point where they're actually changing the guidelines and making them even more allowable for people with lower kidney filtration, because they're finding it even more safe for people that have lower filtration function. So, I don't think there's a standardization for berberine. I mean, you can say there is on the bottle, but it's still a supplement, not regulated.
Let me ask you this, Aaron. Would you rather take metformin every day or an equal equivalent amount of an NSAID?
Oh, in a heartbeat, metformin, yeah. I wouldn't touch it. Yeah. Unless it's a flight, I'm not going to touch an aspirin.
Right. And there's no way I would take an NSAID every day, unless it's like we're talking like what is that, baby aspirin?
Oh, like an enteric.
But something like an ibuprofen or a Advil or something. Yeah. So in terms of risk and what's dangerous and what's not, metformin is more dangerous or less dangerous in every aspect than NSAIDs. So, I don't know. It's good to keep it in context.
The food they're eating to make them have to even consider metformin is more dangerous than the metformin itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're just hoping to slow down the disease process, right? Because how many people in that compromised population get prescribed metformin and go home and eat the same exact thing they did yesterday? 99.995%. Metformin is very good, I think, in that aspect of slowing down the disease process a little bit, not stopping it. But
we're due for 3 more metformin questions, I think.
Yeah. Well, we'll switch subjects here. We got a couple last questions here. Jay, who's usually on here with us, but he had a work meeting, but he chimed in and said, what's up, guys? The 3 of you are looking really skinny. He's going to go do some cardio to catch up with us. So the cardio queen, Jay Campbell. All right, so then Sam asks, was curious to know good quality B12 capsules versus shots that we hear about. Have always been curious.
So, I mean, this is all dependent on your specific situation. As far as people that come on, would check, what happens is, let's say a 300 or kind of a low B12 and you're going to go on metformin, and you've been taking, some people are actually taking supplements and there's B12 in it. A lot of people will have like a form of pernicious anemia, it's called, where you're not really digesting the B12. So just to make sure that we get you past the threshold, at least 1 vial or 2 of injectable B12 to kind of get you over that hump. And then there's some sublingual B12 capsules that we have that are prescription grade that we work with. So it depends on the situation. I would go with a sublingual B12 if you're going to take it, and make sure you take a separate. Don't get like a multivitamin that has B12 in it. Get like a separate B12 entirely, and make sure it's methylcobalamin or hydroxycobalamin.
Like I take a vitamin B complex every morning, and I think it's from like Life Extension or something. The one that we ordered. And dude, man, I get like my skin gets like, I'm getting like, it's like a insane, almost like a niacin effect, man. Is that common, or is that just like me, dude? Like, I mean, I'm all spotty and red as hell and my skin's tight.
Well, it could be. I mean, I think there's niacin in it.
It probably does.
Jack, bro.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's niacin in it. So it's yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that wouldn't be. That's not something from the vitamin B. That's from the niacin.
B12, you feel more of a tingle internally from innervation. Like if people have like neuropathy issues, they're not they get pins and needles a lot, or their cognition's slow. If you're below 600, you're below 600 on a B12 level, you should probably be doing a course of B12 shots to start off with, and get you above. Just get your body what it needs, and then go from there from an oral standpoint.
Yeah, I've always thought I feel the B shots almost immediately, and I think they're a little bit more effective, but if you don't want to do shot, and the B complex shots kind of sting a little bit, unlike the B12 solo in my experience. But I just take a B complex every day capsule, so that Life Extension brand. I think it covers it.
Yeah, love it. All right, so and I'm going to ask David's question because he posted here, which I know. Again, it's one of those things where it's tough unless you analyze the levels. But David says when estrogen is high, what dose of I don't know why I can't. I mean, I take this shit every day. I can't even pronounce it. Anastrozole, and how many times? Like, what dose and how many times a week?
So this is the end all for anastrozole. So the rule here is you don't chase. You're coming from a place that's cookie cuttering you anastrozole. It sounds like there's a lot of places do. So estrogen is not a good thing or a bad thing, but what estrogen is it's immunodysregulatory. So if you have inflammation or you have bloating, swelling, puffiness, pitting edema, signs of estrogen dominance occurring in men, estrogen is immunodysregulatory and testosterone is immunoregulatory. So if you're having any of those symptoms, then it's appropriate to introduce anastrozole. It's not something you just want to take. You got to find out your baseline first and then see what's going from some people don't need it. How many times per week varies. I personally prefer to take a low dose more often instead of blasting people with 1 milligram at a time. And then there's all these spikes and ups and downs. So think of it in terms of, it's not cookie cutter. It's not a math equation. It's going to be based on your particular body biology.
Aaron, what do you think when somebody rolls into a clinic, gets their blood work done, maybe they got their estrogen tested, maybe they didn't, they get put on TRT and they get a nice dose of anastrozole to go with it, with instructions to take it X amount of times in a week, and we'll check your blood in 6 months. Like
1 milligram every 3 days, something like that. But here's, this is the best part is they get the estrogen reading and then it's just a regular estradiol. It's not even a high sensitivity estradiol. Right. So they're checking your female estrogen levels basically.
Yeah.
I'm on TRT test is really high. I was taking point. I mean, that's a pretty normal dose. It's what is your estrogen? Don't go by the test. It's you have a lot of excess abdominal fat. So that's another thing that you brought up, Jim, that a lot of these places are doing is they see an overweight guy come and they're going to assume he's going to be a high aromatizer, and they'll just preemptively give it to him. That might be a good scenario to start him off with if you know that he's going to be converting a lot of fat. If you're a bigger guy, Dave, and you're on TRT, unless you actively work on losing the fat tissue, or perhaps there's a thyroid issue going on there that could help you lose the weight, you're going to continue to be dependent on an anastrozole blocking that conversion from testosterone to estrogen. So, don't get stuck in this loop of chasing the estrogen and the testosterone and what's my anastrozole. This can be easily remedied to the point where hopefully you don't even have to take the anastrozole.
Right. And it's you have to, I mean, that's based on blood work, right? That's after you go on therapy, your testosterone, right? You've been on testosterone therapy for a little while and you see how your estrogen reacts to it and what happens, and then you treat it. We just see too many of the other,
So, yeah, Dave, like what we'll do, if you come with check, what our practitioners have you do for the most part is you come on board, we'll look at your extensive blood work, right? And then you start a testosterone panel or testosterone replacement therapy. And then 4 to 6 weeks after that baseline, we see how your body's actually reacting to the testosterone, and then establish your baseline, not whatever the cookie cutter thing is, and then go from there. And then 90 days after that, we'll check it again with more to see how the testosterone is affecting all these other things also. And then, every 6 months from that point on. So you need to have it dialed in. You have to have these, it's all based on you.
Yeah, and this is the importance too, you guys, that we always stress on here. We're working with the right companies, and that's why Jim and I all work with Dr. Grossman at Checked. And then Larry just asked, what's the URL to work with Checked? That's www.checkmybloodwork.com, which I'll also post in the comments here. But because we get more messages of people that get jacked up through their doctors not knowing what they're doing than almost we do the. It's just insane, right? So it's so critical to work with the right physician.
It's not anyone, we're not admonishing anyone, because there's a lot of, I was, taught the wrong thing. It's not anyone's fault. It's just it's a whole paradigm shift. You have to look at it from the perspective, and then it makes sense once you realize it. You have to go based on your particular blood work. Everyone's different. Certain testosterone esters will cause different estrogen spikes and things like that. So.
Yep. Love it. All right, you guys. Well, I actually have a meeting I got to jump on in about 7 minutes. So, I don't know if there's any last things you guys want to add, but I think that's probably a good part or a good point to.
Yeah, as always, guys, if you have any questions, please, you can reach me, you can private message me, or you can put it on that the feed, and I'll go back through and try to answer, or hit me up whatever way. I'll do whatever I can to help you. As always, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you guys.
And we do these live sessions here, you guys. Of course, they're on gsdmode.com. But they're usually released about 2 weeks after the fact. So here in or if you're not watching this, if you're watching this on gsdmode.com, if you go to our private Facebook group, which is GSD Mode, the private Facebook group, that's where we stream these live, where you guys can ask any questions. And if you don't want to ask a question live on the show, we get it. Some of this is sensitive information. We don't need to release your name. You can also, like Jim said, private message Jim, private message Jay, private message me, and we can have everybody chime in here on the show. So again, you guys, as a reminder, make sure that you go, something that we're all huge proponents of, and we live, eat, and breathe what we talk about here. But make sure that you guys are taking care of, taking very intentional, proactive decisions in action when it comes to your health. And again, www.checkmybloodwork.com. That's Dr. Grossman's company. That's where Jim, Jay, and I all personally go through. So we're all personal patients of Dr. Aaron Grossman, and we're blessed to be able to have him on the show weekly with us to, again, help answer your guys' questions. And
blessed to be here.
Yeah. So, all right, you guys, again, thank you so much. It was awesome having you on the show, and we will see you next time.
See you guys.
All right, peeps, that wraps up today's show. Again, thank you so much for watching the show. I truly appreciate it. Just a few quick reminders and favors that I need from you. Number one, please share the show. Anyone you feel can benefit from this show. This truly helps us grow the show, continue going out there and having impacts on many, many lives. So it'd mean the world to me if you went out there and shared the show. Number two, if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, please go out there on iTunes, Stitcher, leave us a 5-star positive review. All that stuff helps for awareness of the show. Also, make sure to join the GSD Mode private Facebook mastermind group if you haven't already. You can go to gsdmode.com. Right on the front page, there's a link there. Click that. We'll get you added right away. A lot of cool stuff in there, a lot of masterminds. We're bringing a lot of Facebook Live, different stuff in there they have access to that you can't get anywhere else. And lastly, I want to give our sponsors a quick shout out that make this show possible. So our first sponsor is my personal 90-day mastery bootcamp. This is my personal mentorship training program where I give you everything that I do inside my business, right? You get my entire playbook. We have 12 live, 3+ hour long training sessions. You get daily access to me inside the program. There's a bunch of bonus training sessions. You get access to every single thing that I do inside my business. All my tracking forms, all my presentations, checklists, lead generation tactics, lead follow-up tactics, team contracts, and so much more, you guys. There's nothing that compares to this program. You get full access to everything that I do inside my company. I hold nothing back. Go check us out, www.90daymastery.com, where you can learn more information, see future dates, see testimonials, all that fun shite. If you decide to join, make sure to plug in Live Mastery inside the promo code, all one word, all together, all caps. That'll save you 500 bones on the program. So you get it for only $997, which is a freaking steal, or 3 payments of $333. Our next sponsor is perfect perfectstormnow.com. So perfectstormnow.com is an insanely effective lead generation website for realtors, and now offers a website and CRM combo with all my custom personal follow-up drips, all of my scripts that are inside there, right? So there's no guesswork. And when a lead comes in, based on the lead source, you're gonna know exactly what to say, when to say, how to say. All of it's just auto-filled, and we made it where it's dummy-proof. I mean, this system is as powerful, if not more powerful, in my opinion, than the $1,000 plus monthly websites, and it's only $199 a month. So go to perfectstormnow.com. You can check out in-depth demos, see more testimonials, learn more information on it, all that cool jazz. Our last sponsor is EMF. So Optimized Life Nutrition has created the most powerful nootropic on the planet called EMF, Energy, Memory, Focus. So if you're like me and you want insane energy, improved memory, an extremely intense focus, this is the best product that money can buy, you guys. I personally take it every single day before I do webinars, before I do things like this, man. I'm always taking this product to go out there and enhance, again, my focus, my intensity, my memory, every aspect of it. So go out there and check right now on www.optimizedlifenutrition.com where you can learn more about EMF. Lastly, you guys, if you want to be like me and the rest of the GSD crew, as well as my real estate team and so many others that listen to this, listen to the show and support the show, make sure you're rocking this GSD mode gear, man. We want to go out there and spread the love, spread the word, spread the GSD mode name. So on the site, gsdmode.com, we have men's shirts, women's shirts. We're starting to run a lot new apparel through the site, so you see a lot more coming as well. So make sure to go check out the site, pick that up, have some fun. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.